Hi. Okay, so I'm going out later tonight, so I did my makeup, so I thought today would be a good time to film this. The finished product's behind me, but essentially just what I'm gonna do is this is gonna be a fun crochet with me video where I just show you my process on making the sprite cardigan. It is a paid pattern from Etsy by Craft, so I will not be showing like too much of what I did. I'll basically just say what I'm doing, but I'm not going to give any in-depth tutorial or guide because it is a paid pattern that I did buy, and it just would not be right if I gave out that information to other people. So hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so here you can see I'm just crocheting a regular white square, and this is later gonna have a soot sprite on it. I later did switch to a granny square method, but this one was a 17 chain, and then I did half double crochets. And here I am just stitching on all of the little lines that make the soot sprite look like he's a fuzzy little ball. If they ever make a live action Studio Ghibli movie and it's Spirited Away, which I sincerely hope they do not do, but if they end up doing so, I really hope that the soot sprites are one of two things. They're either giant pom-poms or they're giant, like, walking loofahs. I just think that would be so funny. Alright, so here I started crocheting the white granny squares that I mentioned earlier, and I actually ran out of the yarn I was using, which was the Impeccable by Loops and Threads, which I believe is the store brand at Michael's. So I later, I had to buy some more yarn, and so I had to head back to Michael's. Okay, so really quick update. I have been working with this. It's a bit different from the other yarn I've been using. This is the one I used the other yarn for. It's like Impeccable yarn or something. And then this is the other one. They're both acrylic, but I'm not sure if you can tell, but this one feels like slightly thinner and a little bit nicer, if I'm being honest. It feels almost like when I was working with this acrylic wool blend that I got a while ago. I don't think it'll make that big of a difference. There's a slight difference in it where the Lion's brand yarn looks much whiter almost. Like the Impeccable yarn is clearly white, but the Lion's brand one is like almost, when I look at it, it makes the other one look less white somehow, even though it still looks white. I don't think it'll be that big of an issue, but just an update. Also, if you look, I have completed quite a few of the squares. Hey, so I started sewing some things together because I ran out of white, so I can't really finish making any sprites right now, so I thought I'd just try to work with some of the squares that I have and finish just like one front panel. But I thought it would be a good time to explain what's going on with the different sizes of squares, because I think I mentioned it, but you couldn't see anything. So if you can see clearly, this blue square is quite a bit larger than this pink square, and then the pink square and the white square are roughly the same size, but like the white square is clearly still smaller, and then the pink square is quite smaller than the blue square. And this is because I use different weight yarns and blah blah blah, and these are granny square, which didn't measure out to be the same, unfortunately, but like I don't really care. I did use less stitches on this to try to get it to the same size, and I thought it worked, but it didn't because I was bad at it, I guess. I don't know. So basically what this means is that when I sew it together, as you can see here, as I did with this like granny square green one, this normal like yellow one of the thicker yarn, and then this granny square with the white yarn, these two squares are the same size, but they're much smaller, so this kind of has to squish in on itself. And so what will happen is as I'm sewing, this part will kind of get tucked into the cardigan, hopefully. I did make a mistake earlier when I did this. And as you can see, like these bits are bubbling up because they're not properly sewn there, where this part should have, like this bit, like that thin line, that should have gotten tucked under when I was doing it, but I didn't. So that's just what I'm gonna have to do when I sew this on top. I'm just gonna have to tuck the yellow under and then sew it. But yeah, that's how it's looking so far. Making some good progress. I've got a lot of squares done, so I guess it was kind of a good time to run out of white because it meant I could start sewing together and weaving in the ends as I go, because that's always like, it was pretty painful. The last patchwork cardigan I made, there was a lot of ends to weave in, and I kind of just like died because I spent like 3 hours doing it, and it was very painful, and I would not recommend doing that. So weave in as you go. Weave in as you go. Okay, look, I got more white yarn. So I was just making granny squares at this point. I had already finished most of them, so the bulk of the work was done, but it was a bit annoying to have to buy more yarn at that stage, because, you know, I didn't use a whole lot for the rest of the project. So, real quick update, I was sewing things together and I realized there's 2 yellow stars together. And I looked back on my plan and I was like, well, there's not supposed to be 2 yellow squares together. I messed up. What did I do? So I realized over here I have the double soot sprites, and nowhere in my pattern is there supposed to be double soot sprites on either side. Then I realized this guy was supposed to be on the end. What happened was I sewed these 3 together and then flipped it somehow so that the soot sprite was now connected to the black square instead of the double soot sprites being connected to the black square. And then I sewed it on the wrong side. This part is supposed to be all the way on this end, over here, where this yellow square is. So the only part where it really interferes is with these 2 yellow stars, so I don't want to take the whole thing apart. So I think I'm just gonna undo this part and the connecting things for the pink to the blue and green star, and then the yellow and the green star, and just switch these 2 stars, because I think that's the only way to make it work. Without redoing all of it, wish me luck. So here I am actually redoing some of the blue squares because I just was not happy with the size difference. It was a bit weird, but as you can see, I actually did not unravel the squares that I had done and then use that yarn like a normal person. I instead just like kept unraveling the square as I crocheted, which was a pretty funky situation, honestly, but it worked out, and then I didn't have a bunch of extra yarn to wrap up into a tiny ball, so. Okay, real quickly, just for some reference, here's all of the like completed squares with the stars and whatnot on them that I still have to sew on, and here are all of the incomplete white squares that I need to sew sprites onto. So quite a hefty chunk for just a back panel, but you know, it's a pretty long back panel. I'm also thinking about just this one, I think. Or no, there's also the one with the eyes, I think, somewhere. No, just this guy. So I'm actually thinking about redoing him because he's quite different from the newer ones I've been making. So this is what he looks like, and then if I can find one on here, this is what the newer ones look like, and I think I like these more. Plus this square's a lot bigger and harder to sew in because of the little pom-pom thingies. Not pom-poms, French knots. He just looks cuter with the giant eyes, and you know, so bye. Okay, so here you can see I am making this turquoise granny square. It's just impeccable yarn, and I actually ran out of it, so it's a smaller granny square. But I basically just made this, and then I made a small purple star to put on top of it. And I also had one big pink square that was a regular size, just half double crochet square. And I basically just put these in the wash, put them through the dryer, and saw how they came out. They came out fairly nice, but a bit less soft, so I could probably just wash them and leave them to air dry. I'll probably stick to just hand washing this garment, but it's good information. Okay, so I have sewn quite a bit of it together, and I got to a point where I could sew together the sleeve, so I'll just show you my progress. All it's missing is the whole back. So, you know, I'll have some fun doing that, I guess. This is gonna take a lot longer than I thought it would because I haven't finished all the sprites actually. I've just been sewing them together and like crocheting them as I get to them, so probably will take like another month. See you then, maybe. Alright, so here is where I actually moved to the bed to finish sewing up the back panel, and honestly I would not recommend sewing things together on your bed unless you, I guess, like being on your bed. For me, it was pretty uncomfortable because I didn't have the support of my chair. I also could not, you know, watch TV while I was doing this, which is what I typically do since, you know, crochet is pretty much just moving your hands. Honestly, the only benefit I can see from this location is you can see my crane string in the background, and that's really not much, so 10 out of 10 would not recommend. back to my desk because the bed was just, I don't know, I was so unmotivated while I was doing it. Ignore the birds. I just have this one last strip of squares to sew on to the bottom right here, and this is literally just like overtaking me. It's just like a giant blanket at this point, and I'm not mad about it, because that means this is just gonna be a really nice blanket that has sleeves. So I guess I'm gonna get to it. I'm probably gonna watch some like YouTube or something, so cut out the noise there. Put some music on. But yeah, let's go. Alright, final stretch here. I am just crocheting a border around the bottom of the cardigan. This is just a line of double crochets. I did this for the sleeves as well, and then finally I crocheted the ribbing around the front area and the neckline and added some buttons. So, without further ado, here is the final result. So I actually had a lot of fun filming this and making this project. The fit isn't perfect, but it looks really colorful and punchy, and I love it. So thanks for watching.